Hey everybody, it's Shark Scrapper. We're back to that nasty stack. We're gonna go with the one right on top. Come on, let's dive in.
Really just looks like it was left in the basement too long. I mean, it's full of cobwebs. I would not be at all surprised to see a spider come crawling out at some point in all of this. This is where things get a little bit rough, because when they're in this bad of shape, the screws tend to be rusted up. And that can slow things down a lot. Not to mention, it just gets dusty, nasty. I might even put a mask on for some of these. I'm not worried about this. This is mostly cobwebs. I don't worry about cobwebs. You can see the rust on this though from the exposure it's had to the environment in somebody's basement or yard, or who knows where it was. That's just going to go back in as shred. What's interesting to me is that this one was inhabited by spiders, and so you don't see any evidence of cockroaches in here. For good reason, I should think, huh? Yeah. I don't know, what would you rather run into, a cockroach or a spider? All right, that's a SATA hard drive. Because we have quite a few new viewers to the channel, I just want to go over this real quick with everybody. Hard drives, the older hard drives had what was called IDE pin boards. So you can see they had these pins, and they're usually gold plated. And the boards are relatively well populated. Boardsort.com, my primary buyer, pays well enough for these IDE pin or high grade hard drive boards that it is worth my time to take these off and ship these to Boardsort, including the time and paying for the postage. The SATA boards, however, are they're a lower grade, a lower value board. So when I did the math, and I have a video, I'll try to link it to the end of this or in the description or something like that. But when I did the math, I realized that it was not worth my time to remove the lower grade or the SATA pin hard drives, as opposed to just leaving it on there and selling it to my local scrapyard as a hard drive, or what some yards will classify hard drive with board. My yard also buys hard drives without the board, but it's at a lower value. So when I did the math, I leave the SATA boards on the hard drives. The IDE boards I take off. I keep looking for spiders, because not that I have, not that I really worry too much about spiders, but if it's a brown recluse or one of their brothers in here, I'd rather not deal with them. Generally speaking, spiders aren't going to bother you unless you bother them, and they might confuse me scrapping as bothering them. So, are you? No, you're not. Man. Hey, Chris, you're Boardsort.com, you're going to get yourself some dirty ram sticks there. Sorry about that, man. Yeah. All right. gonna have cobwebs all over me for the rest of the day here. You can see the carcasses of the spiders. All right, so a copper aluminum heatsink. My yard is now buying these as Refinery. They used to buy them as copper aluminum heat sinks, you know, like ACRs. But they had to adjust that because the people they were selling them to changed the pricing on them. So now they buy these as Refinery. Which is not as good for me financially, but hey, that's the way it's got to go. Usually this ribbon wire is not underneath of this board. So this is kind of an interesting configuration here. Yeah, spiderweb got twisted up on the bit. Come on, get over there. Makes you wonder who's hiding underneath of this board.
Shh, don't tell Sharky I'm here. I want to surprise him. Ha ha ha.
We're probably going to find out in a minute. Hello, anybody under there? Oh, no, nobody's home.
That CPU will just be a basic pinless CPU. That's a category of board sort.
CMOS battery. Oh, the CPU was just a pinless CPU. That's a separate category for board sort. And then I will sell this to my local yard as a high-grade motherboard. Board sort has various categories for the motherboard, so if you sell motherboards to board sort, you want to study those categories carefully and make sure that you organize them appropriately. If you have to depopulate because of your locale, or that's just what you choose to do, you know, there's some reasonable things here. You've got gold-cornered BGA, some other BGAs and ICs, an oscillator. Let's take a quick look underneath of the heatsink here. Yeah, flip chip.
Chips are actually really interesting technology. They're also known as controlled collapse chip connection. The die literally flips over to the interface side. It's really kind of cool stuff. I would encourage you to look into it. It's kind of interesting.
There's very little gold in there, according to the people that have done this. I have never refined it, so that's just what people have reported to me. You've got copper toroids, or copper donuts, as some people like to refer to them. So there's copper there if you want those. There's a few MLCCs scattered around here. And then usually there isn't much on the back of these, except spiders, webs, eggs, cases. If you do take the heatsink off, most yards are cool with just cutting off the prongs and then putting that in with your aluminum heatsinks, however they buy them. My yard buys them as extruded aluminum. And now we have a jetty board here. Let's see, get the wire off of here. My yard buys this ribbon wire as number 2 insulated. Your yard may actually have a category for ribbon wire, or they may ask you to put it in low grade. If you have to put this in low grade. You might want to consider cutting off the connector ends. You may have to do that anyway. Your yard may require that you cut the connector ends off. Mine doesn't. If you do have to take these off, these can go in with your gold connector ends because there'll be gold plated pins in there. These are going to be pretty cheap. Not much in this because these are so small. Let's see if we can get it open quickly and get an idea of the pins that are in here. Probably, I'm not expecting much out of this one. Let's see. The older ones can have really nice gold pins. Yeah, these are breaking because they're so old. So that's why a commercial operation will just shred these up and separate them. All right. And that's either going to be a low grade or a mid grade, depending upon how your yard grades things. Because there's gold plated pins on here and some small components, your yard may take that as mid grade as opposed to low grade. My yard will let me put that in with mid grade. Get over there. All right, you're going back in there. We take apart. CD-ROM boards are a separate category at boardsort.com. So separate those. I checked these ribbon wires. This one has gold on it. I don't know if you can see it there. There's a little bit of gold. So I keep those. I keep telling myself that someday I'm going to go after that gold. If I don't, then I'll give it to people that do. The other thing that I like to go for here is the brass spindle. So that's a nice little source of brass. And then if you are so inclined, there's 1, 2, 3 motors in here that you can go for. I don't spend my time doing that. I just let it go like that. All right. Now, let's go ahead and get the motor out of this one. Yuck. Yuck. So, for my yard, they will take this as a copper bearing motor. Many yards will not take these. Many yards, well, I don't know many, but some yards may actually have a category for computer fans because there is a little bit of copper in them. So, you know, it's not terrible, but compared to other copper motors, it may not be as good. Anyway, you know, again, it comes down to what your yard allows, how they grade, what they do. This was a new acquisition to make things. Yeah, I think this will be a good angle for y'all. Makes it a lot easier when I'm cutting off these thick bundles of wire. This is going to go in the shred pile, and we're going to get on to the next nasty one.